Right. I do not see our group here. Facebook group. Hold on, I need to see if I can connect the group on the fly. I shouldn't have probably
Okay.
done that. Are you still there, Sheila?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, good. All right, so let me see if I can do this on the fly. It says it's connected, but I don't see it. All right, let's do this. There they are. There they are. All right. Save changes. All right. Hey, Arlette. Nice to have you on live on YouTube. Super excited to be here with you. We have a special guest. We're going to give it just a couple minutes, and then I'm going to also tag our group members. So give me 1 second. Let me do that. I literally have been doing Facebook Lives, I feel like my whole life, and I am still
Just
going
had
live challenged.
Well, you just said you were going live to YouTube. So are you going live to YouTube? Or are you going live to Facebook? Or are you going live to both?
All three, actually. So we're
Ah, you're
live
so
in all
fancy.
three places. So we're on my Facebook page, our Facebook group, and YouTube.
You just need to, keep sending me all those little technology tools that you're so familiar with, Sunday.
Yes, StreamYard. It's StreamYard. It is the bomb.com. All right. So, hey, Priscilla, nice to have you on. All right. So, as you all join us, Yolanda, nice to have you on. So, as you guys join us, please let me know where you are watching from and what you are drinking. And Sheila, welcome to the party. Tell us where you are from and what you are drinking. I'm going to give you a formal introduction, but we always start with our drinks.
Well, first of all, you didn't tell me that drinks were invited. And you know,
Ah,
I
you
love
should know
my
me well enough.
Because listen, we have happy hour a lot together, but I was going live to your group and I wanted to make sure that I could still see clearly. But I could run downstairs really quickly and get some wine, but I'm not going to do that.
We could, because I could definitely fill the 5 minutes. I can take you offline. You just say the word, and you go get yourself a glass of wine, because we do our live with cocktails. At least I do it with cocktails. Some people are doing it with water or whatever. It's funny. I do have a bit of a story. So when my back went out last year, I'd be doing these lives and I'd be like, okay, so I'm just drinking water. I just have juice because I was on such heavy meds. So I am now officially back to happy hour
Well,
during our lives. So
I cannot wait until we're in the same place together because this is going to be epic. uh, Having us together. And you know what we should do when we're together? We should go live together in the same place. And maybe have, like everybody could bring their wine in a brown bag and you have to guess
old
like
school,
what
everybody's
kind
drinking
of
40s.
wine do they have?
That's funny. That's good stuff. Like, as long as there's no Mad Dog in your brown bag, I do not judge. So, all right. So we've got some people from all over the United States. We've got South Carolina, Priscilla drinking water, always the healthy water. So I am definitely two fisting it. I've got my water. And okay, so for all of you guys who know, I've been an avid Alizé drinker for the last year, and I've officially given up Alizé. So I am drinking peach vodka. Well, who's that? P. Diddy's peach vodka. What's it called? Ciroc, and a splash of. Let me specifically say a splash of cranberry juice. So, all right, we got Hennessy and Coke. We've got water. Lots of water. All right, because it's getting ready to get hot, and we are about to approach the end of chapter 5. So we will be doing a recap at the end of the month. So without further ado, let's talk about who we have with us, this fine woman that we have with us today. So we have Sheila Folk of Travel Industry Solutions, and we are going to be talking all things legal agreements and why, if you are serious about doing business and not playing business and you mean business, you'll have your business protected. And so Sheila is going to talk to us all about what that means for travel advisors and what you need to know. So Sheila, I'm going to hand it over to you. So hopefully I covered how amazing you are, because ever since we've met since last year, I am just so grateful to be partnering with you in this space.
Oh, thank you so much for having me here. And you know how much I love you. I mean, you're like my BFF today. I really want to appreciate tell everybody how much I appreciate them being here at 7 o'clock at night because some of us have kids like me. I told my daughter, stay in your room.
Don't come out. Don't speak.
I've already fed you. I'm going to do this with Sunday. And she was like, you're talking to Sunday again? I said, of
Again?
course I am. I said, of course I am. So here's the thing. My name is Sheila Folk. If we're just meeting for the first time, I'm also a travel agent just like you. I am the CEO and founder of Travel Industry Solutions. And one of the things that really gave me a lot of heart palpitations when I first started my travel agency was the absence of legal frameworks and operational frameworks that tie into your legal. And because I spent the bulk of my career in various hospitality verticals and also in the global risk management space, I quickly went to work and put a lot of these solutions in place for my own business. But then later on, I started to realize that there was a huge gap in the industry. And if you were new, you didn't know where to go to. If you were seasoned, you didn't know where to go to. And for all of us, it seemed inaccessible. It wasn't affordable. And so finally, I said, you know what? I'm going to bring together this team of experts, lawyers, compliance experts, marketing folks, and develop this product. So I'm not an attorney. I don't play one on TV either. but
Harry
what I,
Mason
what I
or Matt
do
Locke or anybody else like that.
is I bridge the gap between what is practical and what we need inside of our agency. And I take that to our legal team so that they can understand how we work and develop solutions that are right for travel agents. Nothing pains me more than to go to a conference or a webinar and you have an industry attorney up there telling agents everything that they need to include in their terms and conditions. So, first of all, you shouldn't be going out and writing your own terms and conditions. What
Yeah,
should be communicated to you is why you need them and where to go to get them.
that's awesome. So, what do you find to be the top mistakes that advisors make when it comes to this?
I would say for newbies, it would be delaying until you have more time to get your ducks in a row. But here's the
Yeah.
thing, time is never going to be on your side. The longer you're in business, the more business you're going to have, hopefully, the busier you get. And so delaying to get your ducks in a row is a huge mistake from my viewpoint. I would say also, and this ties into delays, but it also relates to delays. So waiting until you have steady cash flow to get contracts in place or to update the ones that you already have. And here's what I tell everybody Sunday. You can't go back and retroactively protect yourself when you're named in a lawsuit.
Yeah.
You can't do it.
Yeah.
And the last thing is, and this really applies to newer advisors who maybe feel they don't have enough clients yet in place, and it's thinking that you don't need legal contracts because you're small potatoes. But here's the
Yeah.
thing, guys: the law doesn't care just because you only have one or two clients. They don't.
That is correct.
And here's a biggie. This is I don't know if I've ever told you this story, Sunday, but I hear this a lot from travel advisors. I only book for friends and family.
Yes.
I want to tell you a quick little story about my friends and family. So, people, and if you don't know, and most of you don't know me, but I'm a widow. and I was widowed 11 years ago. My very best friend from college became my attorney and also the guardian of my child if I die. He happens to be a creditor's rights litigator, and he booked a trip with me just before COVID.
Mm.
His wife didn't want him to book it, but or no, he didn't want to book it, but his wife wanted to. And despite the fact that they knew that his job was kind of on the rocks, so he lost the job. COVID then went full force. I had negotiated a refund for his trip at 85% with the TO, but because he was a creditor's rights litigator, he attempted to do a chargeback. And the chargeback was, of course, against the supplier because I collect the client's card and pay the supplier.
Yeah.
But what people don't understand is that it took my time to help support my supplier. I lost all of that commission in addition to losing the friendship because I told him to take a hike and don't ever call me.
Don't like lose my
Don't
number,
ever
buddy.
call me again. Like, I know we've been friends since we were 18, but don't call me. So
Yeah.
that's another thing is, listen, guys, if you're booking friends and family, don't think that they're not going to put their family in front of you because they
Yeah.
will.
It's, you know, I love the story for illustration purposes specifically because it does illustrate the fact that oftentimes friends and family can be the worst clients on every regard. And so that is even more so if you are in business to be in business, that you need to act accordingly. And don't assume because we're friends that it's, you know, things may not happen. So I love that as an example.
Yeah, and also what there is another legal mistake is not keeping your agreements up to date. The laws are changing. They are changing right now. We are monitoring some big bills that have been proposed with regard to privacy.
Mm.
So we are monitoring those very closely. And there have been changes even since I've launched TIS. We monitor all of those laws and make sure that our customers are protected. So that's another big mistake that I see folks make.
Privacy is a really touchy thing. I mean, I just saw an article, I think it was a couple of days ago, that Facebook has gotten sued for violating the privacy law data, I think in, I can't remember which country it was, but I mean,
Yep.
even big companies are getting hit with this. So definitely understanding privacy and how we play a part in that.
But you know what? It's not just big companies because we're seeing this happen in the influencer space quite a bit right now.
Mhm.
The big brands are starting to sue influencers for privacy infractions. And that's one of the big legal issues for travel agents that they're not aware of is if you're collecting information on your website through forms or a subscribe button or whatever, those visitors or those prospects who are giving their information to you have a right to know how you're going to use their information.
Mhm.
And it's the law. You have to have a privacy policy if you're collecting that information. And a lot of people don't know that. I speak with 30-year veterans who don't know it. And it's a big deal, and we're starting to see more and more cases come before the courts, and the FTC is really cracking down on that. So that's a huge legal issue for folks is website privacy policies, and they don't understand the difference between a privacy policy and a terms of use.
Mm.
So
That's a
you
good
know
one.
they don't, because you're not required to have a terms of use, but here's why you should have a terms of use. So a terms of use is not the same as your client terms and conditions. It's the
Yep.
rules of the road for your website.
Yes.
And so if somebody sues you, for instance, over an infraction or a copyright violation or whatever, you want the jurisdiction to be where you reside, where your business lives.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you could end up having to drive from Georgia to California.
Yeah.
Who wants to do that?
Yep. And not, like just copying some agreement online and not understanding that. And you're in Hawaii doing
Yeah.
settling a lawsuit is not good.
No,
So,
and we're seeing a lot of, I know people like to use some of the online form providers, and I won't name their names, but they're pretty big and popular. And while they have some decent coverages, what's really lacking is the understanding of how travel agents are using their websites. And so they're not thinking, since they don't understand our business, they're not thinking through all of the protections or clauses that we need to include for us, the affiliate and advertising disclosures, which is, that's affiliate programs are becoming really huge for
yeah,
agents.
that that is really good. I'm actually just typing just to let, if anyone has any questions, to just go ahead and post your questions in the comments, and as they come up, we'll make sure that we address them. Are there any other mistakes that that advisors are making that we should call out, just to, like, maybe you think it's a mistake and you don't even know it? So it's really important that all of you all watching, that you understand what potentially you're doing in your business that you may need to cease and desist for. We do have a question on, can you explain what terms of use is again?
Sure. So terms of use is akin to the rules of the road for your website. So what are the terms that you need to abide to when visiting my website? And then it sets your jurisdiction for where you live. So it's all about the rules of your website, not about the rules of your bookings or your client interactions.
Yeah.
And you'll see a lot of larger organizations have terms of use. Actually, there's a good number of small and mid-sized ones too, and they'll vary depending on the industry or the type of business they are. So that's the difference between the terms of use and your terms and conditions.
So, what are the top 10 legal issues that advisors are facing or could be facing in their business?
Well, we did cover website privacy policies. That's a
Mm.
huge legal issue that we see. One of the things that is a lot of people think has gone away is friendly fraud. They think that it's gone away since COVID has died down. But there was a recent study that came out, or actually a study developed by one of the largest chargeback research centers in the world. And friendly fraud is on the rise 40%.
What is
So,
friendly fraud?
friendly fraud is somebody who is initiating a chargeback who either knows you or knows what they're intentionally doing in their chargeback to get the result that they could not get from their provider. So,
Mm.
yeah. So, credit card chargebacks are costing the travel industry $1 billion a year. Two-thirds of that is friendly fraud, which is on the rise by 40% since COVID. So, friendly fraud, an example was my friend.
Mm.
He knew he was initiating a chargeback fraudulently, but he did it anyway.
Yeah, because he and I was talking to an advisor a couple of weeks ago, and I was surprised by her question, but her question was simply, well, what is a chargeback? And So there are people who don't even understand that this could happen. And literally a chargeback is somebody you charge, you want to go to Aruba, you charge $1,000 to they call their credit card company and they say, no, this is not a valid charge.
Yeah, and
It
the thing
happens.
that a lot of agents overlook about chargebacks, particularly hosted agents who say, but I take the card and I pay the supplier and therefore I'm out and it doesn't affect me financially. But as you know, I always say this, time is money. Okay. And when you have to take the time to support your suppliers or third parties to help defend against the chargeback, that is costing you money through your time because now you've moved away from your money making activities. And the process can be easy or lengthy. But when you have your ducks in a row, you can better support your supplier and you protect your commission and all the work that you've put into the trip. But they could also do a chargeback against you for planning fees. Maybe they don't like the trip itinerary that you've delivered to them, and maybe you do collect planning fees directly into your bank account.
Yep.
That's lost income, and you can't get that time back. And when we talk to all of our large partners in the industry, the consortia and organizations and all of those folks, including the insurance companies, we say, look, there's a spillover effect. And really, an agent plays a pivotal role in helping stop this domino effect of bad behavior by consumers. So friendly fraud, sorry, I went on and on.
No,
Independent.
that's good. I mean, because I've never heard of that term. I mean, I know what it is, but I didn't know that there was an actual term for it. So I think that's really good that there is a term and that we should all be aware of it. Friendly fraud. I like that. FF.
Friendly fraud. And I'll just briefly touch on this independent sub-agent agreements or independent travel agent agreements. And it's from both sides. The owner of the agency does not clearly delineate the terms of the relationship. And when the agent signs the agreement, they rely on the owner to know what they're doing. And then they part ways. And then there's this big gap. There's this big gray area as to what happens when I choose to leave you, host agency. What happens to my clients, my bookings, my commissions, or what is the commitment to get paid? Maybe you're not leaving, or what are the rules of the road to use the credentials of your host agency? So it's really both sides of the coin. The agency owners need to get better agreements, and the agents need to review the agreements that they're signing and not accept what's put in front of their face all the time. If you don't understand something, ask questions. It's okay to ask. Just like, it's okay to go to, maybe you're with a huge host agency. It's okay to go to them and say, look, I'm moving on. You've been great to me. What is the next step and how do we move forward since I have all these bookings with you? So ask the questions. So that's a biggie. Getting sued for all kinds of things. I mean, you can get sued for anything under the sun. A big one, though, is when you don't understand your duty of care. So if you don't understand what you should and you should not say, and what you must include with your quotes and not include with your quotes before they sign on the dotted line, you can get sued. So if you make, any sort of little error on a trip booking, you can get sued, which is why you need errors and omissions insurance of your own.
Own policy. And we have and if you don't know what E&O insurance is and what Sheila's referring to, And you're on my YouTube channel. Please search error and omissions because we have an entire training dedicated to that topic alone.
So that's a biggie. That's a legal issue that we see, not having your own errors and omissions insurance. And go back and watch Sunday's training, because I'm sure she's going to tell you the same thing as me, is your host agency might offer it to you, but what happens when the limits are reached and the well is dry and they can't cover you?
You
So
should be scared as an advisor of a large host agency when oftentimes their policy is maybe 1 to 2 million. And so that's split amongst all of the host sub agents on that account.
yeah,
So if
all
something happens,
5,000 of them.
that's
Know?
right. So it's great to be a part, and I'm not trying to bash anybody's
Yeah.
relationship, but the reality is you're not a named person on their policy. Your business is not a named policy. But I literally could go on about the risk that you pose not having your own policy.
Well, and some of the things that I've seen too with host agencies, and I've heard from others, is some of them will offer the E&O insurance. Excuse me, real quick.
That needs to be wine. That's the
I
problem.
know, but it's
water.
not.
You're drinking water. What is the problem? It's like
I'll call you after the show and I'll crack open a bottle. Okay. The other thing too, guys, that I think is really important, and then we'll move on from the E&O, is sometimes the fine print is not obvious. And in some cases, some of the agencies will say, well, our E&O will only protect you if you book our preferred suppliers. But if you go outside of our named preferred suppliers, then we will not protect you. So that's also something to be aware of as you make a decision. And E&O insurance is super cheap. So the next one, I would say copyright infringement, whether it's images, whether it's copying text. There was actually, I don't remember if it was a big cruise line actually sued a travel agent. This is years back, for copying and pasting language from their site and putting it on theirs. And, the agent was like, I'm promoting you. Like, I'm not really doing anything wrong. But you have to be really mindful of that and understanding that you don't have to have the copyright symbol on things for it to be copywritten. So if it's an original work that you're producing, but the big area that we see with copyright infringement is images. It's a biggie. Listen, my SEO people had posted a couple of images to our blog, and he did not put the attribution underneath it. And of course, I don't pay attention because that's their job, right?
Yeah.
And we got a letter. Like, this is a registered work. You did not apply the attribution. It was a demand letter. So that employee got fired. And then, of course, our SEO company reimbursed us. But it was a lesson for the owner of the other company to tighten up his processes internally. Seller of travel regulations. We're going to get stuck on this one because everybody has a lot of questions about seller of travel regulations, but there's a lot of legal issues around seller of travel. So I got this question. I did a talk for ASTA yesterday, and we dove deep into SOT. First, let me just tell you that there are 4 key states that have seller of travel laws. If you live in one of those states or sell to people who live in those states, you must have a seller of travel license. So Florida, Hawaii, California, and Washington State. If you are hosted, though, you fall under your host agency's credentials. So that basically gives you license to sell to individuals in those states, or if you operate out of those states. In Florida, you have to file an exemption form. So if you're hosted and your host agency has Florida credentials, you must file for exemption. If you are selling travel to individuals in those states and you don't have those credentials, you could be fined heavily. And I will tell you, I just had an acquaintance last year who thought he was covered because he lives in California and that's where his business is. He was selling to people in Florida. And somebody reported him to the attorney general in Florida for violating it because he got on their bad side. And the person happened to be an attorney and knew the laws. So, you have to think about pissing people off and they dig around and figure out how to report you. You need to be abiding by the laws. If you're hosted, run your fees through your host agency in those specific states, etc. So that's a biggie. And
So
if you have questions, put them in the chat because I imagine a few people might on that one.
let's just repeat the states again. So California, Florida, Washington, and Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if you live in those states or you're selling travel to anyone who lives in those states, you or the host agency that you're affiliated needs to have a seller travel license. And if you're in the state of Florida, you also need to get an exemption.
Yes, if you're a hosted agent, you get
Hosted agent, yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that there's just really no getting around that. Like you need that is part of doing business. So if you're not playing business and you're serious about your business, you'll know those stipulations. And I do know some advisors who are like, I'm just, maybe they're independent or they're working with smaller agencies or they're independent. It's mostly independent agents who are like, I'm not going to get my seller travel, but you still need to be conscientious. We're an online travel business. So if you do business with somebody who finds you online because they see that you're the bomb.com and they're living in Florida and you don't have a license, don't let the money fool you. Like,
that's right.
Be protected, right? So that's a really good call out. I think that is, I remember when I first started in the industry and I heard seller travel, I was in the industry for, I don't know, at least a good year and a half, and I had never heard of it. Host agency never said anything about it. And I was talking to somebody and they're like, yeah, seller travel. I'm like, what the heck is that? Like I immediately got scared. So it's something that you need to be conscientious of, and you need to understand and when I signed up for the host agency I signed up for back in 2016, I'm no longer with them. They gave me all this stuff. Like I had all this paperwork, and SOT was one of them. ARC number, CLIA number. I didn't know what any of that stuff was. I didn't understand it all. And so I didn't really know what to do with it, but it's your responsibility to know what to do with it.
Yeah, that's why we have a seller of travel guide. So
yes.
we walk people through why it's important and what they need to do with those credentials and where they display it and include it in their communications. So that's another key piece because, I'm still running my agency, even though I have only just kept like my handful of private jet clients. But my host agency president was like, Sheila, please develop this guide. Please, 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 because they helped me to get this company off the ground when we first launched it. So we have that. So understanding how to display them and where to display them is also really important.
Yep. So one of the questions relative to this, and there's a couple of questions, so I'll go backwards to the last question on SOT is this something that you get through your host agency?
If your host agency is credentialed in those states, then yes. And if they don't have them displayed in their member portal in a specific area, just reach out to their member services and ask them in which states they have SOT and can they please provide the credentials to you.
Absolutely. And then another question around SOT is if you're selling internationally, how would that seller of travel license affect us? And so this particular, Arlette, she is in the Bahamas, I think. I think she's in the Bahamas.
So again, If you reside in or sell to people in those states, that's what seller of travel law applies to.
Yep. And then another question about, can you clarify what the exemption is? I assume that's in relationship to the Florida exemption.
Yes. So in Florida, they make you take a little extra step, but they're not as bad as California.
No one is as bad as California.
Nobody's no one can break off and go become their own country. You know?
Actually, I think they are their own country. They just haven't.
So in Florida, you either have your own credentials that you can apply for and you get a surety bond and yada yada yada, or you're with a host agency who has the credentials and you're leveraging their credentials. But what you have to do is take it a step further, is you have to go to the state website and you apply for what they call an exemption, exempt from having to obtain your own credentials, and it's $50 a year. So it's a lot cheaper. There's no surety bond. There's no other process or paperwork that you have to fill out. You'll fill out this form. It'll list your host agency on it. You'll put their credentials on there. And I don't know if I imagine they still ask for this, but typically in the past, they want you to attach a copy of your contract with your host agency so that they know that you're contracted with them. And then what happens is they send you a lovely piece of paper that says, okay, you're exempt. And then you probably accidentally put it in the trash or in the file folder that you're never going to access again. So it's a way for them to make money. But
And you just need to keep it updated every year.
Keep it up to date. And you can do it all online.
Yep. So there's a couple of questions that I missed relative to insurance. So I'm going to ask that. Nice to see you, Deb. So this question is if you are with the group leading them, is there special insurance you should be carrying other than liability? And my assumption is, Deb, that you're referring to other than E&O insurance. The answer, I believe, is no. You do not need any special insurance unless you're a tour operator.
So interesting you brought this up, because we just had a conversation with several of our we have an advisory board of agents who do big groups, because we're getting ready to tackle the group space contractually and set up a program for all different types of business models.
Yep.
But insurance came up in the conversation. So not everybody is purchasing insurance outside of their E&O, and you're talking more of an extended liability policy, like a general liability policy. So we're exploring it. I know that half of our folks have a policy in place that extends for those who are traveling with groups or inviting their agents on FAMs, maybe their agency owners, or they're hosting workshops on site for their agents or for other folks that are attending their events, possible consumers. Mm-hmm. So we are growing so fast, guys, and we're getting a lot of these questions. And stay tuned, because we're going to start to have some definitive answers. I would suggest to you right now, if you are very unclear about it, call your insurance agent and speak to your agent as to whether or not you should be carrying some other policy in addition to your E&O, because your E&O is really for mistakes that you're making. It's to defend, it's to defend you. So, and of course, there's a whole nother element to that, which is the travel insurance for your group, and having the right terms and conditions and directives inside of your terms for those travelers who end up getting hurt while they're traveling with you. What are the protocols? What happens if there's bad behavior from a group traveler? So there's a lot of nuances here, and we're working on that.
That's really good to know.
Because there's a lot of gray. There's so much gray right now. And so, at TIS, we err on the side of being conservative because it is gray and we don't want to leave anything to interpretation.
That's perfect. Are there any other legal areas that you're finding that travel advisors are getting themselves into?
So we talked about website privacy policies. I briefly touched on earlier the advertising and affiliate disclosures. If you guys are doing like links, this is my favorite suitcase, eye mask, whatever, you're required by law to disclose that you are making money off of these affiliate links. So that's important. Um, Ineffective communications. So not having communications that tie effectively back to your legal protection. So let me give you an example of what I mean. I have a good travel agent friend who's also a TIS customer, and she called me one afternoon in a panic. And she said, Sheila, I did something so stupid. I booked a trip for one of my best friends and it was very last minute. So I didn't have her sign anything. And I didn't set up any of the follow up communication that goes along with your program. And I don't remember the details of it, but the client had to cancel and the client came back and said, you never offered me travel insurance. And so therefore you need to keep the cost of my trip.
My heart hurts.
Okay. Again, one of her best friends. And she said, I don't know what to do. So I asked her, did you do this?
Write a check.
Write a check. And I said, well, I'm not going to say her name, but let's call her Susie Q. I said, Susie Q, in all of the booking communication series that we have, this particular topic is covered twice, actually 3 times. During your booking confirmation communication, a 7-day reminder, and a follow-up before the final. You're communicating to that customer in the event that you overlooked it or whatever, plus the insurance waivers. So when I talk about communication, I look at it differently than most people out there. And Sunday and I really are very much aligned with this, that your communication, whether it's your prospecting communication, your booking communication, your post-travel communication, proposal communication, it really needs to be purpose-driven. Forget adding the pretty pictures to the header. First of all, it's going to end up in spam most of the time when you do that, particularly with some of the CRMs that are out there that allow you to do that. But they need to be purpose driven. And when it comes to your booking and proposal process, they need to cover your ass. So they need to have some legal paragraphs in them that tie back to your agreements. They should also minimize the back and forth with your client because time is money. So when my clients book with me, they never come back after they deposit because I've laid everything out. They know what is going to happen and I've taken the thinking out of it for them. And then the third piece is they should make you more money, not only in time, but through upselling opportunities. But the effective communication is so important, not only for your profitability, but for your protection. And I think that's where so many agents miss the boat is, look, we're in travel. We're attracted to beautiful things and very shiny objects. And so naturally we go to the fluffy, the cute, the shiny, but we don't think about the function as much and the purpose. So ineffective communications often lead to legal issues, including not understanding what you should say and not say to your client. Like, Oh, it's so safe in Cancun. I was just there.
Oh God, God, you're making me choke. Stop saying that. That is not something you should say in any country.
No, never. Right?
Cancun is so safe. Yes.
Right. And then the last one I would say is supplier choices. So, supplier choices can present a lot of risk to you. So, if you are new, I recommend that, and you're new and you're hosted, until you really get your feet wet, stick with preferred suppliers through your host agency. But as you become more experienced, you've traveled, you've met other suppliers in person, you've had a full vetting process. Then start using those suppliers that you have fully vetted. Because here's the thing, I oh gosh, I mean this I just want to call this girl up so bad and just grab her by the hand and lead her down the right path. She's brand new. Her host agency isn't helping her, and she booked an Airbnb villa for a big group she's escorting. She booked her own transportation directly, museum tickets, all of the stuff. And she was asking about the terms and conditions and what she needed to include in them. And I said, transportation is one of the riskiest things you can book.
I'm like everything you said about that trip just made me cringe. I'm like, she booked her own transportation. She booked an Airbnb that we have no idea what the.
But
Oh,
I go, have you seen their insurance policy? What are their coverages? She said, I'm not making commission because I'm making it on a fee. I'm doing a
that has
fee.
nothing
And
to
I
do with
thought,
the
well,
question
honey,
that you
first of all, let
asked.
me teach you how to make some commission on this because there's plenty of suppliers out there. But second of all, most importantly, OMG, have you vetted these suppliers? Because there are critical questions that you
What if the
need to
ceiling
be
falls
asked.
down on her clients while they're sleeping in the Airbnb? What if it blows up? What if there's a home invasion attempt?
I don't know, but
What if there are bullets that accidentally spray with all these people who are
what if
shooting?
there's a blowout on your motor coach on
I'm
the
not even
the
thinking about the
tires?
transportation. The transportation alone, like you said, there's so many things I tell people all the time, Sheila, and you absolutely alluded to this. There is so much shit that could go wrong on a trip. And
And this
you,
is
as the advisor, could be held liable for any. I mean, a fly bites you and someone gets a tick on their thing, and you are liable because you didn't tell them that they could potentially get bit by a mosquito. Like, I mean,
this is why agents should not be copying and pasting clauses that they found on Google or from their biz bestie, and they should not be going to sources that are not focused squarely on the travel space, and they should have something that is continuously updated, monitored. Here's a big thing that I and I'll just go ahead and say this out loud because we're we're becoming a lot more known in the industry, and people say, why you, versus another familiar face in the travel legal space. And here's what I tell them: that single attorney generally has a focus in another area of practice, and they're supplementing their practice with general contract law for travel. And then they're turning out mediocre product that is okay, but they don't have the expertise to dive deeper into employment law. They're not employment law experts. They're not privacy experts. We have a team of lawyers. Each one of our lawyers focuses on a specific area of practice, and then we bring it together for the whole of your business. So you can go out. The better way is to go out and hire individual attorneys who each focus on one of these areas of practice. But don't rely on somebody who is a sole attorney who dabbles in real estate, in, non-disclosures or mergers and acquisitions. They don't get it. They, focus in a particular area. It's kind of like niching
I
in
mean,
the travel space.
law is not a general. I mean, you've got general law and then you've got specialty law. In our industry, just to add some additional context to what you're saying, is because I think some of the questions that we're getting to, and that I've also had, is, I met with an attorney and they gave me an agreement, right? But Sheila, you just went over several different things that you need to have in your agency. Even if you're an independent advisor and maybe you don't have employees yet, but maybe you're thinking about getting ICs in the future, that's going to be something that's another layer of responsibility that you're adding to your business. But just some of the things that you've said, Sheila, are, if you are on the internet, by definition, you need some sort of web policy, terms of use, privacy policy. If you have a form on your website, you need to have something that's going to protect, identify how you're going to protect people's data. And what's that law that's in California that mimics the GDPR law? There's a California version of that.
It's the Cal.
The CalUp, right? So,
yeah, and there's nuances to it. It doesn't apply to most agents, but there are nuances and there are some changes that are happening.
But the point is that you, as an advisor, you've decided to start a business, and by virtue of you now being this great title, CEO and owner, you assume responsibility of knowing things that you may not know, and there's a lot of law that goes around starting a business, and that you need to make sure that you protect yourself. One of the questions that we got here, and I don't want to forget it, is how because you started to talk about kind of why TIS versus some other solution. And someone asked, hold on, I'm just looking for it because we got a couple of questions. I want to make sure I get to them all. Is how can I, as a newbie, protect myself with a host? That was one of the questions Erlene asked.
How can you protect yourself with a host? So first and foremost, I always say to agents is pay attention to how long they're locking you into that agreement. So how long do you have to be with them? Can it be month to month? Is it annual? And then pay attention to the language on how you're going to get paid out commission if you leave. Here's the thing. I'm going to tell you why a lot of times you can't take your bookings with you. And a lot of it has nothing to do with your host agency. It has to do with the supplier and their rules. So even if your host agency agrees for you to transfer the booking out of their host agency, you're going to lose this commission in most cases because the supplier has a rule in place. So don't always blame your host agency for holding back, your bookings, like they're out to get you. They're not out to get you, but you need to be informed so that you can choose a situation that is best for you. And in some cases, look, you may just, if you have that many bookings with that host, then just pay the darn monthly fee if the money makes sense, so that you can retain access. And then when you're paid out, leave. I've had to do that myself.
Yep, I as well on the way out wanted to ensure I didn't lose my thing. What are the 5 agreements that every travel advisor should have in their business?
So we've already covered the website policies, and actually there's 4 under that. Well, the one's optional, the affiliate agreement. And so your privacy policy, I think your terms of use, and then your CalOp. But starting from the top, travel services agreement, which works in conjunction with your terms and conditions. Now, you can really live without the TSA, but it's a methodology that we developed inside of TIS so that it doesn't feel so scary to send out a 12-page terms and conditions document to your client and then for them to go like, seriously, am I signing away my firstborn? Are you buying a beach condo without me knowing and having me sign the mortgage? So the travel services agreement with the terms and conditions, a planning fee agreement if you charge planning fees, and a very robust travel insurance waiver. This is important, and the reason why our waiver is so different than what you would just download from your travel insurance company is because we actually explain everybody's role in the process of travel insurance. We're not insurance agents. We make recommendations for travel insurance, and many people do not, many agents and customers do not understand where their responsibility begins and ends. So ours is much more robust in not only guidance, but the legal yes or no. So those are the key ones that everybody should have. And you know this, Sunday, already because you've obviously we talk often. And
We talk
what's
a lot.
what's really cool about what's coming with TIS is that we have a new document management platform that's being built that will be launching this summer. So anytime you go into our system, you will always have the most up-to-date agreement. You will be able to execute it with your client, collect credit card through our secure tokenized vault, get e-signature, and if you're utilizing any of, there's 5 forms that we have. If you are using them on your website, let's say you use the single form TSA that we have, the travel services agreement that links to your full terms. We're going to give you a little piece of technology to put on your site. It's like a little code snippet. And so every time we update the agreements, it will be updated dynamically behind the scenes based on your user profile. So the documents are built based on your agency structure. You'll be walked through a series of questions. You'll have a user profile, but touchless updates forever. And then after the launch, we'll start integrating with the CRMs. So we already have a one-click integration with Travefy. We'll do a deeper integration. I've actually talked to Scott and to David about that, but we've met with the tech teams of the big CRMs. So it's huge what is coming, and the beauty of it, and the reason I'm doing it is because when we do push out updates, people love that we give updates for free. It's part of the program. But they hate getting that email from us that says the agreement was updated because they're like, oh shit, I have to go in and update.
What?
Yeah.
So Sheila, let's do this. Let's start from the beginning because we've talked about your launch, but I've got a couple of questions about like how do I get this? So let's talk about, I'm going to put in the chat all over where you go to get the membership. So can you talk a little bit about the membership and what's available so people have some context?
Sure. So we have 3 membership levels, and you have 2 payment plan options. So you can pay monthly over time, or you can pay annually, and you do get a savings when you pay annually. So you have silver, which is the very basic. It'll just give you 4 agreements: your TSA, your terms and conditions, your planning fee agreement, and your travel insurance waiver. It's a great program, and you get the free updates. And also, we are the only one in the world who warranties our product. So we stand behind it. And if you have a financial loss as a result of one of our forms, we step in and make you whole under our policy. That's a huge, no attorney does that in the world. So you can do that. That's just the basics for the solo advisor who just wants the basics. Then you move into gold. Gold is also for the solo advisor who wants a more robust solution. So in the gold, you get all of your, what I just said in the silver, the terms, the planning fee, but now you get all the website policies. You're going to get a 1099 contractor agreement. And you know what? I didn't touch on this one, but please understand also, another difference is when you're hiring virtual assistants, going and finding the 1099 agreement on another site or the IRS or whatever form, they're not thinking about protecting your intellectual property and all of the nuances that go around that. So we have that one, a referral agreement, group leader agreement, influencer agreement. There's a bunch of them. Plus, you get about 100 email scripts, checklists, forms. Every month we release new educational how-to content, and it may be extra checklists, or Sunday is actually doing July. So we actually bring in experts because I don't know everything. So it's not just driven. This isn't a solo gig. We have about 10 people who work in TIS. You get a bunch of extras. And then when you get into the platinum level, that's for agency owners who have ICs. You get 5 user seats with that. And when you get to that level, that's where you get your independent travel agent agreement and a couple of little extra nuances. So there's 3 levels: silver, gold, platinum. Silver and gold are for the solo agents. Platinum is for the agency owners who now have ICs. And we are an annual recurring membership because you get the warranty protection, free updates, new product released every single month, all sorts of benefits. And now you're going to get e-sign, credit card collection, invoicing. And Sunday knows I reinvest all of our profits back into TIS for you because I believe that this industry can be really, really amazing if we have people who have the right intention to help people who were once like me, new, starting out, not knowing where to go. And that's why I love Sunday, because she is my sister from another mister. She is so committed to her students and this industry, and she knows it brings tears to my eyes. I really respect you a lot.
I really, really appreciate that, Sheila. I really, really do. So I'm glad that we have partnered together. And so what I put for you guys is the link straight to the membership that's going to get you access to the silver, gold, and platinum. I've also included a coupon code. If you sign up, if you do an annual plan or a monthly plan, you can use that coupon for the gold. And then the other thing that Sheila and I have partnered with is, if you are not a techie, who do you know is? I am. So I can also do the implementation for you. There's an opportunity. If that's something you're interested in, you can reach out to me, or you can also do it on the site once you sign up. And what you get with me when I do the implementation for you is I have 2 levels of implementation. I have a silver implementation, either platinum or silver can do that. And I will implement in your CRM of choice: Travelify, Travel Joy, Vacation CRM. I just did that today at Vacation CRM deployment. Or if you're still doing things manual, I can help you get them installed in your technology solution of choice. If you decide to do a gold implementation, what that looks like is I will also implement your automation. So I will put together your task list, the automation in Travel Joy. Travelify doesn't really have that, so it's really primarily Travel Joy or Vacation CRM, and take that and get it implemented with you. You also get some additional templates from me that sort of connect all the workflow together. So if that's something that you're interested in, you marry TIS's legal agreements, and you marry Sunday's techie mind and implementation, and you have a solution that works for your travel business.
Yeah. And I tell you what, because we've been through a couple of folks to help with implementation, but Everybody loves what you're doing. I mean, they love it. And it's really, really robust. And I'll tell you what, I didn't tell you this because I just love you guys so much. And there's so many of you on this call tonight. If anybody purchases an annual membership, silver, gold, or platinum, before Friday with Boss Annual Code, we will add on one additional month to your membership at the end. So you'll get the waived sign up fees. That's what the code is for. But we will also provide you with one additional month. So you're basically going to get 13 months for the price of 10.
That's awesome. Well, thank you.
And
Yeah,
we'll manually do that.
So I'll have to edit my email. I'll have to edit my email sequence for tomorrow to add that little bit. So that goes through Friday. So if you use Boss Monthly, so if you sign up, listen.
Boss Annual.
I said monthly, but Boss Annual, if you use Boss Annual coupon code, so that means you're doing an annual subscription, you're going to get an additional month added to your subscription, and you're also going to get TIS's service sign up waived for you. So that's awesome. That's awesome stuff. I love it. I love it. So, listen, the thing that we sort of didn't touch on this, but I want to, so you don't post it. You actually got to use it on the link. So I'm not going to reach out. Usually I have a call and people are, so what I want you to do is I'm going to post this, site, and what you can do is go to gold. I think this coupon works for
it's all of them.
Is it all of them? Okay, so it's silver or gold. If you use Boss Annual on the purchase of either one of those memberships, you're going to get annual coverage for the next 13 months will be added, plus the service fee for the sign up will be waived when you use that coupon. So use that. What I want to say that we didn't really talk about is the cost savings that you have here.
Yeah.
because I just want to tell a little quick story, because I know we're already over the hour, but I want to tell a quick little story. I went to a lawyer when I first started in the business to get terms, and it was $3,000. It was and that was just one. It was just the one document, the one document. They didn't talk about the 5 documents. Granted, this was before the whole privacy policy and the website and all of that, but it was just the terms and condition, $3,000 off the gate. So just talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that. I'll use the gold as an example. So the gold is $499 a year, $499 a year, or $49.99 a month. Okay, so for $499 a year, you get $30,000 worth of legal contracts that are industry tailored and proven tools to help you set up the operational framework in your business. And when I say proven, I built my business to 8 million in revenue in 2 years with myself and my mother. So I would say that the solutions that we have and have continued to add and test are proven. And the additional expert educational content. If you spent, and I don't even have my calculator here, so you need to update your legal every year, at least once a year. If you did that and you just factored in that cost, you're spending a huge amount of money, okay? Massive amounts of money. Plus, I just lost my train of thought. So you have the expense there. Oh, and the beauty is too, every time if you contracted with an attorney, every time you call and you have a question, what they're going to do, they're going to bill you.
They are going to bill you. So it's the one time they'll charge you to create the document that they don't keep updated, that they don't revise. If there's a change in the law, if there's anything that you need to take into consideration, you change your business, there's some major change in the industry that we need to account for, you're not covered. You have to go back and you need to get a new contract. And that's really the beauty of why I decided to partner. And we in our program, we have taken out any reference to any other. You are now a part of our core program in terms of legal agreements. It's part of the business foundations. That step, making sure inside of our workflow that I teach, I have now also added legal agreements and your solution there. Because the reality, ladies and gents, and then I'll get off the soapbox, I promise. The reality is, if you're in business, you're assuming a liability. The objective for your business is to protect your business. That's the reason why you need to have insurance, and that's the reason why you have agreements. And frankly, your insurance company assumes that you have agreements in place. And it's not your host agency agreements, it's your own business agreements that you have that are enforceable. So
yeah, the number one thing that people say to us is, I can finally sleep well at night and really focus on what I do best. And that's what we're here to do, is to help you sleep well and get that off your plate. You don't need to worry about that. It's not your job. It's not your area of expertise.
That is correct. And so you've got a great comment here. Terms and conditions only is worth the price. And I've had them for over a year. So Mika, thank you for that. We appreciate that. And I look forward to a continued long relationship with you, Sheila. And if there are any questions, and anyone who sees us in the replay, do not hesitate to push that question, and I'll get a notice. And if I can't answer it, I'll forward it over to Sheila so that she can answer it. Listen, we are at we are 10 minutes over. So I've taken 10 minutes out of your night. Thank you for joining us live tonight. And if I don't talk to you, have a wonderful holiday weekend. And Sheila, I'll be talking to you with a glass of wine later on. You guys have a great night. Let me post the link to the website. I think there is one more question on that. Let me just do that one more time. Link to the website, and then what you want to do is use Boss Annual if you want to get that extra month added, or you can use Boss Monthly, and that will get you your service fee waived.
Yep, and it's
all right.
TravelIndustrySolutions.com.
TravelIndustrySolutions.com. All right, everyone, have a fabulous day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.